So this is the first episode, the very first episode of Telling the Story with Pixels. So we have filmed many stories, and we used to have something on YouTube called Telling the Story with Pixels, and that's the objective of this podcast. Pixels means, yes, pictures, and why not? And this is an audio file, but also pixels from the perspective of data. So we're going to start using data-driven storytelling and talk about communications and digital fundraising, AI for sure, and many others. My name is Eli Silva, and I have the privilege to lead the G-Lab Group, which is a communications and storytelling agency focused on the Salvation Army. That's what I do. And today I have with me Nick.
Hello, I am Nick. I am the digital fundraising manager here at G-Lab Group. I've been working with G-Lab and the Salvation Army for the past 5 years. Very privileged to be able to do so. But yes, right now I lead communications when it has to do with fundraising, whether that's emails, ads, website donations, anything related to really engaging our donors and raising funds.
And
I'm Vanessa, and I am the art and communications manager here at G-Lab Group. And I oversee everything social and design as it corresponds to anything from website to helping Nick with his emails. And I've been doing that since I was born, but I started getting paid when I was 15. So I don't know how many years of experience that adds up to, but it's something.
this is our very first episode, and I wish you could see our office right now. It's a big mess, and we're all looking at each other like, what are we doing? And the reason we're meeting here today is because I believe that we do a lot of things at G-Lab, and we help the Salvation Army tell the story, raise funds, raise awareness. And again, we just want to share our practices, our methodology, to see if there is any professional in communications or any communications professional that can use some of our expertise and apply locally. That's the mission basically of this podcast, is for us to share what we do in lieu to see if we can help the field, the Salvation Army field, to raise awareness, raise funds, and tell their own story. So today we're going to talk about communications and how can we use our communications at the Salvation Army level to raise awareness. How can we orchestrate software and planning and this and that. And if you are a communications person, a communication professional at the Salvation Army, and you feel like you're wearing many hats and you have many expectations from your bosses, how can you pull this off? Well, today we're going to lay that out in kind of bullet point, if you will. We don't have a script. We're just going to talk about from our heart and from our expertise, okay? So, Vanessa, how are you?
Hello.
All right. So, Vanessa, can you tell me from the G-Lab perspective, how we orchestrate communications campaigns that later will help the Salvation Army enhance brand awareness?
Yeah, so for our communications campaigns, we typically start a year ahead, but let's say like narrowing down the actual assets we're going to be using for summer camp. We start those about 4 months ahead of deployment date, for a fancy word there. And we start with research. So we see, okay, what is NHQ talking about? What are direct mail for our different clients talking about? What are things we've done last year and the years before? What are the general themes? And then obviously we start looking at national holidays and days of observances. And when that all ties in together, we typically get a very recurring basic theme. And that is Q3 will always be summer camp. Doesn't take a lot of hard thinking to reach that conclusion. But we like to check anyway. Maybe they changed it. And then from there, we start with SEO research. And the reason we do search engine research is, yes, for our landing pages, but also for our social media. That also lets us know what kind of narrative and angle we want to approach summer camp this year. So what are people searching for? Like, for example, 2020, people were looking at summer camp at home. So we made resources like coloring books to help families have summer camp at home. And we fundraised for youth programs who were sending camp in a box.
Those resources, how do we share those resources, and how are they useful anyway for the Salvation Army?
Yeah, so as a lead magnet, there's kind of like 2 ways we can go about it. There's a very organic communications way where we host them on our website, our client's website, and we share them via social media, and anyone who finds it interesting and wants to download it can. And then there's a more fundraising approach where we use it as an engagement to our donors and we put it in front of them, and then later on we do a soft ask in that one, and then maybe a hard ask later on. I'm not the expert on that, but I do know that's how a lead magnet can be used, both for organic, which is just a very soft way of saying like we're here for the community, and for fundraising where we can say, hey, we're here for the community.
So now you do the search engine or the researches of keywords and whatnot, and then what people are looking for, not just necessarily the keywords of summer camp, but then those resources of the coloring book came about and whatever. Okay, all right. Let's put the resources of coloring book aside for a second, and let's focus on the keyword research and how your team start working on a social media plan based on those keywords. Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, so something that's really cool about SEO research is that it gives you keywords, but it also tells you the exact question people are typing. So when we're looking at summer camp, we saw that this year a lot of the questions were, what does summer camp look like? What is summer camp useful? How does summer camp work? So it seems like there's a lot of disconnect between parents who just didn't know how summer camp worked. I don't know, maybe it's a pandemic thing, but there's some kind of disconnect there. So we said, okay, our campaign has to center around what is camp. So we did a hint of what we would call nostalgia marketing. So base summer camp is the same as it was back then. It's still the same today. But we also highlighted safety features, how fun it is, the type of activities it offers. And we find that when we center around parents and really detailing the services we offer, how they can access it, it also engages donors because it's the same information donors want to know. Is like, how is my money working? How is it being put to use in the community? So I find that when we target parents or let's say clients, it's the same information donors want to know. And I think it's even more friendly to target parents instead of alienating parents and just targeting donors.
That's really cool. Okay. So at the end of the day, I like this point of talking to parents is very similar to talking to donors. It's just like maybe, I'm guessing, the call to action is going to be different, slightly different. Okay. But this year I saw though that your team came up with a strategy with 2 landing pages for summer camp. And for the audience, yes, we started talking about communications as a whole, but then we started kind of zooming in what is happening. And right now, at the moment we're recording this podcast, is June 2025, and we are in full blown into summer camp campaign at the Salvation Army. But as Vanessa said, these started at least 4 months ago. So now in June, okay, as we visit any Salvation Army website we work with, you can see 2 landing pages for summer camp. Can you walk me through the rationale behind that?
So as I mentioned, I, if possible, always target client messaging over donor messaging. But for summer camp, we really wanted to emphasize that based on the SEO keywords we were seeing, people found summer camp kind of like a waste. So we want to explain that summer camp isn't a waste, that it's here to help the community, that children who wouldn't have, or parents that wouldn't have childcare for their children in the summer, this is a great solution for them. This plugs them into a community. But at the same time, we didn't want parents to see that messaging. We didn't want to say, hey, there are children in your community who are struggling to have care during the summer. We don't necessarily want parents to feel discouraged or undervalued. So we wanted to really humanize the messaging of camp to be, hey, parents, this is an amazing, safe camp. We wanted to give them a top-notch experience. Like they were choosing an amazing camp, which they are. And then we wanted to give donors the experience of understanding why camp is important, why something so frivolous as it can appear to be of like, okay, I'm going to send kids to ride horses. Why am I donating to this? We wanted to give them that full panorama or that full view without discouraging parents.
No, right. That makes sense. And I don't know, Nick, do we have any numbers? I know it's very early in the season, right? And I'm not want to dive into fundraising. That's not the mission for or the objective for this podcast episode. But as far as usability, traffic, and so forth, hasn't been confusing having 2 landing pages, or are the audiences landing where they need to be?
Yeah. So when we look at these 2 landing pages, what we're really looking at is one, you have those 2 audiences, but 2, where are you talking to those 2 audiences? And so the big thing that we look at in the actual web traffic is where are people coming from to get to these pages. So one really cool thing we've done is that when you have these 2 landing pages, Well, now we can really control who we're sending where. So on social media, we know from the data that we've looked at on, Instagram especially, you're talking mainly to clients. So you'll notice on social media, we're talking a lot about, hey, sign up for camp here, and linking to that client landing page that we call it. That's the sign up for camp page. And here's a lot of information about camp. But then when you look at email fundraising, well, your email list is based on your donors. Your email list doesn't include your client list or anything like that. So our emails, we're sending people to that donor list. Our website banners will say donate now or sign up, and those kind of can split between those two landing pages. The other great thing is, at the top of the donor landing page, you still have a button to sign up, or at the top of the client landing page, you still have a button to donate. And that typically does funnel pretty well people into, the page that they want to be in. But yeah, those two kind of channels that we have are really great ways to differentiate between who we're talking to. Are you talking to clients or are you talking to donors? But, I know you said you don't want to touch on fundraising much, but one thing I do want to touch on is when you can differentiate who you're talking to, you don't have to have this kind of weird middle ground messaging. So in our emails, we can talk to donors and say, hey, donate now. And here's the issues children are facing over the summer. There's summer hunger, there's housing insecurity, all these things that you don't want to have to go up to a client and say, hey, you are facing hunger and housing insecurity. You should, it's kind of awkward when you have this one landing page to tailor that messaging to donors, to clients. Clients already know their problem. You don't need to define the problem for them. They know why they're coming to you. Donors might not know the problem. You have to define the problem. So when you have these two landing pages, we're able to talk more confidently on our different channels and say, hey, I can confidently say you're a donor, so I'm going to talk to you about the problem and why you should, support this program, why you should support summer camp and the problems children are facing at home. But then on the client landing page, you can say, hey, here's this amazing camp and you can send your kids and it's amazing, but you don't have to kind of like tiptoe around and like, well, I don't want clients finding this, I don't want to talk to clients about how their house is insecure and how their kids are hungry. They know that. They don't want to be told that by somebody else. They want to hear what this amazing program is. And donors, though, we define the problem. We say, hey, this is how we're going to help our community. And again, just having these two landing pages really helped us segment our messaging and write our messaging different to donors, to clients. And I think being able to offer help more confidently, but then also ask for money and donations and support more confidently.
Got it. And I like the word segmentation because that's what it's all about. Right now, going on a single message for different multiple audiences, although it was more expensive in the past, whether you use print or TV or whatever, today, using the new technology, the technology we have at hand, we can segment that. And by segment the audience and the message, when you match message and audience, the results are just better. Now, how long does it take, Vanessa? How many hours do you think? If you wear the hat of a communications director in the field, okay? And we just had a communications director meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you saw that they were wearing many hats at the same time. So I really want to give a kind of scenario in how many hours, if it was Vanessa and no Vanessa and a team, okay, how many hours do you dedicate to this research, strategy, and then designing or whatever, execution, let's put that into, and then execution and implementation? What is the ballpark for that?
Yeah, that's a tall order because I do work with so many different units that I work in big batches of hours. But let me think. Okay, so researching, let's say a really challenging topic, something like we want to talk about Pathway of Hope. That's challenging to find specific keywords for.
Why?
Because it's a broad topic and I need specific keywords with a range of low difficulty and high search volume that we can confidently write about. It can be difficult to find.
Can you define for me low difficulty and high search volume, just in case?
Yeah. So low difficulty in terms of search engine optimization means that you can easily place in the first 10 results on a Google landing page, on a Google search, or not, depending on the difficulty. So something that's around 60% difficult is 60% difficult to land on that page. We typically aim for a mix. So you want to do a mix of high, medium, and low difficulty. And I'd say our 50% is a nice, comfortable number, obviously,
How do you find those numbers or what software?
So we use SEMrush. It's a pretty pricier tool. but it's so comprehensive that I haven't been able to leave it. But there are some free options out there. Nick, do you know of any free options?
So there's a few ways you can go about SEO research. SEMrush is a very, very robust tool that we use. It does give us more information. It gives us those difficulty ratings. One of the free versions that a lot of people use is Google Trends. So Google Trends allows you to see kind of the popularity of different keywords in terms of searching and over time. So you can kind of look at the trends on each of those keywords. I think SEMrush does allow like some free usage as well if you want just basic usage. But yeah, it has been some of the best, one of the best tools in terms of that research.
Yeah, I remember using Google Trends when I was comparing topics such as Salvation Army thrift store versus Salvation Army family store.
Yeah.
And then when I took the Salvation Army word out, the phrase out, and it was like thrift store versus family store. And obviously the results were like, Google was like, what's a family store? What do you get in a family store? Do you get a kid or do you get what do you get in a family store? And well, thanks God, we as an army have been moving along in understanding that search engine optimization is a thing. And now we in the army, we have names for everything, right? In different names. And sometimes we bring those names into the web environment. And then is when the search engine starts like, what's going on? So that's why, those tools that I ask you, like, what do you guys use? All right. Thank you for that. So going back to the timeline. Yes, you're not off the hook yet. So what are we as far as time consumption for this?
Yeah, again, so a difficult topic like, let's say, Pathway of Hope would take me about an hour of research. Something that's easier, like Christmas or summer camp. I mean, easier, like there's more results. SEMrush has more tools. Like there's more at my disposal. I also have experience using it, right? So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you master it, anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour for that research. Because you can really narrow it down to the specific city, specific time of year. So you can have all those parameters so you don't have to do a lot of the thinking. The software brings it all to your attention. After research, then I start diagramming out what do I need by when, and then I work backwards from there. So if I need a landing page and I need web banners and I need social media posts, and this is for summer camp, so it needs to be out by April 1st, I'm like, okay, I need to give myself time for approvals, for someone to approve it and look through it. Give myself, let's say, a leeway of a month. So that's why I start working backwards. That planning process, again, takes me about an hour. And that's if I'm being really detailed and lining up like every single task and subtask so I don't forget any process. From there, copywriting, I am an avid user of ChatGPT and Perplexity.
Took so long.
To save me some time there. So I do use that for copywriting. Then it goes through my own proofing and Grammarly. I'd say that's a part that takes me the longest because, in my opinion, copywriting is so important and can drive the narrative behind the media and how the graphic will look like and how punchy you want to make it.
Right.
A graphic designer, I think, would be very upset at me for using the word punchy to describe a graphic. But I'd say that takes me the longest. I'd say that takes me around, let's say if I'm full focused, doing nothing else, a full day, a full 8 hours. But I do parse it out. I don't have a full 8 hours to dedicate on one task. So I'll probably do like an hour a day for a week, 2 hours a day per week, maybe get up early, stroke of inspiration. And again, that full 8 hours is me using ChatGPT to write. So I'm having it write emails, social media posts for 3 months. I'm not talking about 1 month here. I'm talking about writing 3 months of social media posts. 3 months of emails, 3 months of web banners, 3 months. So again, that's why it's such a big amount of hours, 8 hours for this, because it is a lot of copy. Once it's proofed, I do spend, let's say, about an hour organizing all these files. So I'm a very, very meticulous person. I'm very organized. So I have everything in different Google Drives and different docs, connected dependencies, and so on. It's a whole thing. So it takes me about an hour to set all that up. And then after that, the next longest thing, I'd say it's about 5 hours to design if I'm designing in Canva. Obviously, again, a professional graphic designer would do a better job than me in actually designing. But if I'm doing it all by myself from start to finish, I would get a Canva template. I'd get the Salvation Army colors and brand standards and have at it.
Where do you get images from?
So obviously we have our GLab image bank, which is huge. So that's my main resource. My secondary resource would be Ministry Toolkit. My tertiary resource would be Red Shield Toolkit. But Canva has built-in stock photos that are really good. So we pay for like Envato and Storyblocks for stock images, but I find Canva has better ones for social media specifically, like more, let's say, trendy or recent or specific. So I typically use GLab Image Bank with Canva stock photos, and that gets me where I need to go.
What are our thoughts, and this is new though, what are our thoughts on using AI for imagery? And this is, I don't think it's right or wrong at this point. It will be right and it will be wrong, but theoretically, but still it's a gray area. But Nick, what do you think about that?
I mean, we've used some AI images in social media and fundraising. We have, but not in the way that you would think. Not like these AI generated images, but we have used AI altered images. So sometimes you have, wow, I need an image for summer camp, but this camp doesn't have good imagery. And this other image is obviously this camp. So one of the things we use a lot is Photoshop has built-in AI capabilities that help you do things like maybe you can cover up the name of a camp if you're posting for one camp, but the image is from another camp. Some things it's, getting someone's name off of a name tag because you don't want the name. So there are a lot of AI altered images already being used.
Question
Yeah.
out of ignorance. I am a communications director locally. I don't have Photoshop or whatever. Yes, there you go. So what do I use? Who's my best friend? Were you thinking Canva?
Canva has a Magic Studio now that has all of those tools that Nick mentioned. Not as great as Photoshop, but they get you. They get you there.
Yeah, and I've used it a little bit to, if you need to remove, a person from the background, if you need to remove a name tag, things like that, it works great. There is some testing being done, of course, not being used live as much, on more AI altered images that are in terms of, hey, we want more versions of this image that are a little bit more useful, move these people to the left or the right. That's being tested, not necessarily being used, of course. So that there is a lot of testing being done in AI imagery. Since we have such a big image bank, it hasn't really been an issue where we need to generate images. The other thing we're really using AI for is image categorization, where you can get, AI services. We're doing a big overhaul of our image library that allows us to tag those images with AI to have better search capability to find these images. That's the main thing where it's really helpful. But yeah, AI imagery is also really great again for, partial pieces of images, altering images to make them usable, sharpening images. So AI can really enhance imagery without replacing the photographer, without replacing the image itself. So really we use AI enhancement more than AI generation for that. And then as well as, filling in the gaps in a video, you're not going to replace a videographer, but AI B-roll of a city, if that doesn't exist, is another thing that can be used that we're looking into in the future. But really, it's not a replacement for imagery. It's not it's a tool. It's a tool.
Yeah. In fact, three more points for us to finish this first episode, which I'm having so much fun. But anyway, that's part of another thing. But the next one is going to be content creation, and I'm going to take or storytelling. I'm going to take on that. Then we're going to talk about the email component, okay? And then we will talk about results, okay? And results, we're going to zoom out a little bit and look over our recently passed National Salvation Army Week, which we had some same approach, different campaign, different topic, but same approach. And then what we have if we have preliminary results from summer camp, okay? But on the storytelling component though, yes, you can check on Ministry Toolkit. Yes, you can check on
Red Shield Toolkit.
Red Shield Toolkit. There you go. Thank you. GLab has, its own library. Awesome. But what I've seen though is like there is nothing like going to camp and spend one day at camp if you can this season, okay? And one day, and what I will use AI or ChatGPT is to give me ideas, a short list. So hey, I'm planning this for next year and whatever, and can you give me a short list of this? I don't have a drone, or maybe I do. I have this camera, I have my phone, that's what I have and whatever, and ChatGPT will give you ideas. You can describe everything because this is me, okay? This is me going over the years and telling the story specifically for camp. You get there and you get either overwhelmed or creativity block. Like, okay, what do I know now? And if you have a shot list and ChatGPT pull that for you, it's going to be so much easier because then you're already working for next year, in that case. So that was kind of a bridge between content creation and AI. But now email is a component of this as well. Now, many times in the Salvation Army, the email component is attached to fundraising. Okay. I want to talk about email component from the communications and donor engagement or community engagement tool. How do we go about it, Nick?
Yeah. So in the past, email has very directly been linked with the direct mail campaigns. So you'd send out a letter, you send it out on a Thursday, it's going to be dropped in mailboxes on Monday. So you send that email on Monday to go along with that letter. And I think that can be very effective when that's the only messaging you have mainly to your donors is through that mail piece. You have a secondary email piece. I don't think that's a bad thing. And that is something we do actually sometimes is we'll coordinate our email sendouts with the direct mail sendouts for those specific topics. But one of the other things that we do that we're really focused on is let's coordinate all of our communications with our donors, with our clients, with our email as well. So then what's on our website, what's on our social media, what's on any of our other communications is also going out on our email in the same way and not necessarily just the asks. So a big component of modern email fundraising is engaging your list, is saying, hey, you should open our emails because it's not always just going to be asking for money. It can be something we've looked at as devotionals. It can be a prayer request. We've had, asked for prayer requests. For summer camp, it can be a summer devotional for families with their kids, and not just client families, but donor families. That can really just give people another reason to open the email, to feel connected with the Salvation Army, to realize that the Salvation Army isn't just an organization you give to, but you can also receive from, throughout the year. So going back to those prayer requests, we sent a prayer request email out at the beginning of the year in January, and that got over 140 in one division responses of people, hey, I need prayer for this. Hey,
Who was the audience for that?
that was our donors.
Hmm.
That was all of our donors. So we went to our donors and say, hey, it's the beginning of the year. Is there anything we can pray for you? And then, we got 140 responses, and these were, some of them could have been personal prayer requests. Some of them were more general. Some people were, going through financial struggles themselves. And these are people who were our donors, but now we can say, hey, we can offer you help. So all of these prayer requests get sent to their local officers. Those local officers can reach out and pray with those people, offer support for those people. And really, that's one form of engagement that the Salvation Army is already set up for. We're already a church. The other thing is, those summer devotionals, those are connected to our camps. We have the authority to really give back to our donors without having to ask for something in return all the time. And so we've actually switched to probably 50% more engagement emails than we have asks, because when we're engaging our donors, they open more of our emails. When we do ask, they give more often. And, there is more of a sense of community from our donors where now there's actually a relationship back and forth where we're giving them, not in return for the donation, just because we want to give, but that does lead to more donations coming in. And that also leads to more opportunities to tell our story, not just to ask for donations, but say, hey, thanks to you, look at this amazing, impact story that we have. Look at this amazing angel tree year we had. Look at the summer camps. So another thing we do is we send a lot of videos, we send a lot of testimonials, we send a lot of thank yous to our donors, so they feel like they really are making a change, and because they are.
Could that work for volunteers as well? You kept mentioning donors, donors, donors. I want to kind of pull back a little bit and look at it from a communications professional standpoint, that we have to look into the entire audience, not just the donors. Have we done anything in that sense?
Yeah, the other thing we do is we do send a lot of, especially thank yous, a lot of engagements to our volunteers. Say, hey, thank you so much for volunteering with us. Because of you, your support allowed, this child to really experience Angel Tree. And then also, hey, the other thing we do is, one, you can invite volunteers to become donors during the off seasons when they don't have volunteer opportunities, but also invite donors to become volunteers. These communications are all segmented out again by, what type of supporter are you? What program do you support? Or how do you support? Whether we have separate lists for Angel Tree donors who are, in-kind Angel Tree donors are still our donors. They're still our supporters.
Right.
Volunteers are donating their time. So I say donors, I really mean supporters. There are many different kinds of donors. These people are all donating something, whether it's their time, their talents, their treasures, all of these different kinds of donors. We treat them all as donors, but we do talk to them differently.
Got it. One final thing. Is this making a difference? Is this sort of effort and focus into this summer camp campaign? That's the only one we're talking about today. We could talk about our feeding campaign for Q4 this year. We can talk about, but we're going to focus on this. Now, is it making a difference in how we measure it?
Yeah, I mean, looking just at the preliminary results, just on the website, and I don't know about social media, I'm sure Vanessa will talk to that in a second, we had over 100% increase year over year in website visitors. So even though we did have camp last year, now that we have this really accessible information on the site, and we're both sending donors and clients there, more than double the amount of people visited the website to look at these pages.
From the social media, have you seen any difference? Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way. What if we didn't have any summer camp posts or communications whatsoever in our social media? What difference does it make that we have now all this planning 4 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes tackling summer camp messaging easier. So it frees up the brain to talk about what plan was coming next. But also, it already informs your community of what's going on. We're making all this effort to send kids to camp. We want to make sure they know they can send their kids to camp, that we are sending kids to camp. So from a messaging perspective, seeing that seamless or connected messaging of when you go to I call the Instagram pages like their secondary website. So when you go to their Instagram website, if you will, and you see that summer camp messaging, you go to link in bio, you go to the parent landing page, you go to the home page, you go to the donor page, everything is connected. Then we also worked with some units to design flyers. So the flyers match the website, which lead to a QR code back to the website. So everything looks very similar, is very similar, and has similar messaging, just makes it all very cohesive and makes sense to the parents.
And on that note, really, when you're sending an email ask for your donors, you're usually sending them through your website to make that donation. And it's very, very much more powerful when you're sending a donor to your website, they make a donation, and then they go to your Instagram and you're talking about how that program is helping kids already. And you're advertising to parents, hey, you can send your kids to camp. So when a donor gives to camp and then they go to your website and they see all the information about camp is on your homepage, is on your social media, and they see, hey, parents, you can send your kids to camp. When your donor sees that, they know that what they gave to is happening already. And it's that much more powerful when your donor isn't just seeing the same ask in the email on the website, but also seeing the results of that donation already on your website, that you are reaching out to help people in the community as well as they're giving to you to help those people.
Now, I'm a communications director, and I hear you saying emails and donors and why not, but is that overlapping or overpowering perhaps what the fundraising company is doing? Or how can I make sure that I enhance and not compete with my own strategy, if you will?
Yeah, this all starts again that few months beforehand with that planning. So when Vanessa was talking about that initial research phase, that's not just the communications team doing that. That's the communications team working alongside the fundraising team, working off of a direct mail calendar. So what you can do is when you do that planning beforehand, when you're looking from 90 days ahead of time, you look at, okay, well, what is direct mail going to be talking about? What is email going to be talking about? And you're planning your communications and your design based on both that and the trends. So for summer camp, we know that we're going to be talking about summer camp on mail. We know what that's going to be what the ask is. But what we can do is we can say, well, what are people asking about summer camp? And let's answer those questions. Talking about that what is camp thing, and we were realizing, well, a lot of these parents with young kids are millennials and Gen Z parents who millennials and Gen Z didn't grow up going to summer camp as much. So we have to have that what is summer camp component in some way.
That is another episode, right?
Right? The whole other episode we'll talk about, and that we'll go into that later. But yeah, really, that coordinated communication doesn't fight with each other. It's just the different ways that you talk about summer camp to your different audiences.
All right. So if you're one of those like me that went to summer camp, and grew up going to camp, welcome to the team. So, well, guys, thank you so much.
Nick, did you go to summer camp?
I did not go to summer camp.
I knew it. You look like you didn't go to summer camp.
he didn't go. Did you go to summer?
I did go to
How many?
Camp Grandview.
How many days?
One. I cried the whole time and begged to go home. But I did go to conservatory, and I won the theater award. Sorry, Allison.
Wow. Okay. So between the two of you, there is probably a whole week of summer camp in between. Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. If you made it this far listening to this episode, well, congratulations. You are the first audience that we have. But again, our mission is to today is if you are a communications director out there and you need help, if you have resources, those resources are yours. I mean, if you have any planning or whatever that we use, we can make that available to you so you can do your part to help the Salvation Army tell its local story, right? So this is Eli Silva and Vanessa and Nick, and we are from GLab Group, and this was the first episode of Telling the Story with Pixels. All right, see you or talk to you in the next one.
Bye.